Across Zimbabwe, a new wave of anxiety is spreading. The much-discussed ZiG currency, introduced earlier this year as a replacement for the struggling Zimbabwe dollar, is suddenly becoming harder to find. From Harare to Bulawayo, citizens are reporting that banks and ATMs are running short of new ZiG notes. Lines outside branches are growing longer, while traders at local markets complain that cash payments are being delayed, forcing them to rely more on mobile money or the US dollar. So what exactly is happening? Why is the physical ZiG supply tightening so soon after its launch? Officials from the Reserve Bank of Zimbabwe, RBZ, have stated that the shortage is temporary, linked to printing and distribution delays. They insist that the overall monetary supply remains stable, and that more notes will enter circulation within weeks. But on the ground, the story feels very different. Ordinary Zimbabweans, already weary from decades of hyperinflation, are growing skeptical. Many whisper that the government is deliberately restricting the circulation of new notes to build public trust in the ZiG, making it appear scarcer and, therefore, more valuable. Others fear the shortages signal deeper problems, such as weak reserves backing the currency or external pressures on the central bank. Economists say there are several possible explanations. One is that the RBZ may be pursuing a tight money policy, trying to limit the cash supply to control inflation. By reducing the number of notes in circulation, the central bank can slow down spending and demand, which in theory helps stabilize prices. Another possibility is logistical bottlenecks. Printing new banknotes requires not just paper and ink, but specialized security materials, many of which must be imported. If the RBZ is facing delays in procurement or foreign payments, fewer notes would be ready for circulation. But perhaps the most important factor is trust. Even if the ZiG is designed to be more stable than its predecessors, Zimbabweans remain cautious. Many citizens continue to prefer holding US dollars, especially for savings and large transactions. In practice, this dual currency environment creates a constant tension. If too few ZiG notes are available, daily life becomes more difficult, forcing people to turn back to dollars, which undermines confidence in the local currency all over again. At the same time, businesses and traders are being squeezed. Small shopkeepers say they struggle to give change in ZiG notes, while bus drivers complain that passengers are forced to pay in larger bills or foreign currency. Some are even reporting a premium on cash, where ZiG notes are being sold at a markup compared to their electronic value. This echoes Zimbabwe's past crises, when cash shortages fueled parallel market trading. The government, however, is urging patience. Officials argue that early turbulence is normal whenever a new currency is introduced. They point to past examples in countries like Ghana and Nigeria, where transitions to new notes caused temporary shortages but eventually stabilized. Still, the stakes are high. If the ZiG is to succeed, citizens must feel that it is both available and reliable. Every time someone is turned away from a bank, or every moment a trader says, "No cash today," that fragile confidence weakens. For now, Zimbabwe stands at a crossroads. The ZiG experiment has not failed, but it is facing one of its first major tests. Will the central bank manage to restore a steady flow of notes into the economy? Or will shortages push people back into the arms of the US dollar, deepening the cycle of mistrust that has haunted Zimbabwe's currencies for decades? One thing is clear: for millions of Zimbabweans, the issue is not abstract policy. It's about whether they can pay for groceries, fuel, or school fees in their own currency without facing another exhausting crisis of availability. Electronic equivalent, which leads to a parallel market premium. We've seen this before. In past crises, Zimbabweans paid extra just to get physical cash, because it was scarce. The same pattern could be emerging again. And yet, the government insists the policy is deliberate. By keeping the supply of ZiG notes tightly controlled, the central bank hopes to prevent runaway inflation. If too much cash enters the system, prices rise faster. If circulation remains limited, spending slows, giving the ZiG a chance to hold its value. This is what economists call a tight money policy, a painful but sometimes necessary tool to restore confidence. But the public sees it differently. To ordinary Zimbabweans, standing in long queues at banks, being told no cash available, or being forced to pay in foreign currency, the shortage feels less like policy and more like mismanagement. Confidence, once lost, is extremely difficult to rebuild. Internationally, investors are watching closely. If the ZiG can prove itself, Zimbabwe could eventually attract new foreign investment. But if confidence falters, the country risks sliding back into a dual currency system dominated by the US dollar. In fact, many Zimbabweans already prefer to save and transact in dollars, seeing them as safer, more predictable, and globally accepted. That makes the ZiG's challenge even harder. There's also a regional dimension. In neighboring countries like Zambia, Malawi, and South Africa, citizens are asking whether Zimbabwe's currency experiment can succeed this time. For them, the ZiG is a test case, an experiment in whether a gold-backed note can restore stability where previous policies failed. And here's the critical question. Can Zimbabwe afford to let this shortage continue? If shortages deepen, trust erodes. If trust erodes, people flee to the dollar. And if people flee to the dollar, the ZiG loses its role as the national currency. It becomes symbolic rather than functional. Already, traders in informal markets report pricing goods in dollars first, then converting into ZiG only when customers demand it. Public transport fares are increasingly quoted in foreign currency. Some workers are asking employers to pay salaries in dollars, not ZiG. These are warning signs that the ZiG is at risk of becoming marginalized. The government faces a delicate balancing act. Issue too many notes and inflation surges. Issue too few and shortages undermine trust. The solution lies somewhere in between, ensuring enough liquidity for daily life, while maintaining discipline to prevent a return to hyperinflation. For the ordinary citizen, though, the issue is immediate and personal. Can they get cash to buy groceries? Can they pay school fees in ZiG? Or will they be forced back into a dollarized economy that leaves many excluded, especially the poor who rely on local currency? In many ways, Zimbabwe's new currency is at a crossroads. Success will depend not only on economic theory, but on public trust and perception. If Zimbabweans believe the ZiG can hold value, they will use it. If not, no amount of official policy will save it. And that is why the current shortage matters so much. It is more than a logistical hiccup. It is a test of confidence, a test of stability, and perhaps a test of Zimbabwe's future.